and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're in our C-101CC. We're going to look at taxi, takeoff, basic flight and landing. So first of all, taxi. You can see I've got my controls shown down here. We use differential braking, so left wheel brake there, right wheel brake there, throttle there. Yes, right turn out here.
It's to the right for you.
So thrust forward, and then if you want to turn right, right brake. You want to turn left, left brake. It will take a lot of the speed out of the jet, so you do need to power through it. Regards to maximum taxiing speed, well, you can't really read the speedo anyway, but absolute maximum on a long straight of just under 50 knots and about 20 knots in a corner, as long as it's not super tight.
Yeah, generally speaking, I recommend to be rather cautious with this aircraft while taxiing, because she does not stop very quickly and you do not have an amazing turning circle unless you start braking before you get up to speed.
Roger, good call. Basic wheel brake button, we'll put both brakes on like that. And you can bind them to an axis or a binary button. Axis works better, but I've got binary and it works okay. Right, we're on the runway now. Now, the first thing I always like to say is, if you look at Stahl's front wheel there, it's nice and straight. But because it's a caster wheel steering, it may not be straight, and that will give you a really bad takeoff. So the first thing to do, once we're lined up, is to just put some thrust on and just make sure she is straight. Like that, that's fine. We can now be assured that our caster wheel is straight and we're ready to go. Next, we're going to set our flaps in takeoff position, Stahl, presumably?
Yep.
So, yep, in takeoff position there. Other than that, what about technique? When rotate?
We're going to rotate at about 105 knots.
105 knots, Roger.
Gear will come up as soon as we have positive rate of climb at about 120 or so knots. And right afterwards, the flaps and lights at about 125 knots. So she does not accelerate particularly well. It is going to take a reasonable amount of runway to get up.
That's
One thing to note, if there's a lot of crosswind, you may actually need to use the brakes to stay straight.
The left and right wheel brakes, yeah?
Exactly. The rudder, generally speaking, will become effective at about 40 knots, and other than that, takeoff is pretty straightforward. You know, just hold the brakes, throttle to max. She can hold it, then just let go.
Roger, I should mention, when we rotate, we're going to rotate to about a standard 10 degrees positive attitude, and we don't want to go any higher than that because we could risk a tail strike. So once we've rotated up to 10 degrees, we'll then just hold it at that attitude until she takes off. Now, when she takes off will depend on our current weight. We're going to be light today, but if we were loaded with bombs, that takeoff could take a long time. You just have to be patient. What we don't want to do is panic and pull back even further than 10 degrees because we could damage the aircraft, and it doesn't really help anyway. So that's the thing to mention. Once we're airborne, because it's a relatively weak engine, we're going to go full power until we're at cruise. Right, Starlington, I'm ready when you are.
Right, set brakes and throttle to 100%.
Ready?
And release in 3, 2, 1, now.
Let's go, go, go. So I'm going to use a little bit of rudder to correct. At about 40, 50 knots, we should get rudder authority in the bird. So we're not going to use our wheel brakes unless we've got extreme crosswind. So now looking for 105 knots. 60, oh, she is slow. 70, 80, 90, 105, and rotate. Airborne, whoops, a little bit delayed there. Okay, gear up. We don't want to climb too fast because we'll stall, so let's just keep nice and low incline. It's good. What did you say, flaps up speed?
120, 125 actually.
Roger, 125. Right, flaps are up. That's good. What we're going to do now is head up, keep full power up into cruise and then report back.
One thing about the design specification of this aircraft before it was made was that it needed to be able to go from Spain to Egypt in a single flight with no bags, because the Spaniards were still operating down there back then. The funny thing is, until this thing actually came into service, that was no longer a requirement, but it was still in the design specification. So it really hampered the performance of the aircraft, although it does have, obviously, great gas mileage.
Right, okay, now let's talk about, I don't really like to show lots of flying off because there's not a great deal of point. People will learn how to fly it themselves, you know, in terms of axis control and whatnot. What I'd like to talk about is limits. How can we brake this plane? What do we not want to do?
Well, generally speaking, it's hard to fuck up too hard in this aircraft. She's rather forgiving. She doesn't like to stall too harshly. She doesn't really go into flat spins unless you really try hard. On the speedometer, and the main speedometer, you do have your little white and red tie that will show you basically a max speed to keep. But honestly, I mean, reaching that speed, again, you'll have to work pretty hard on. You'll probably have to go in a pretty steep dive to do that.
Roger, good. Okay, that's all good. Next, Charles, I've told you, yeah, she is trim heavy, but a lot of planes are. Next, I would like you to take us back to the airport. We'll do a single orbit, we'll do a single left-hand circuit and then into a landing with a relatively decent long final. And we're going to talk about, on the way back to the airport, we're going to talk about the landing. So turn when you're ready. Right, so regards landing, what is our ideal approach speed?
Approach speed is going to be about 115 to 120 knots on our final. We can drop our gear at 200 knots, our flaps at about 150 knots. And touchdown will be at around about 95 knots.
Roger. What I'm going to do is pretty much follow you in, so I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah, what you'll notice if you go to idle throttle or almost idle throttle, you'll get a warning sound and an amber light at the top right of your dash.
Yes.
You
Generator?
can turn it off with the next to the no, it's not generator. That's just a warning if you throttle back too far with your gear up. You can turn it off with the button next to the throttle, the little grey one.
What's the wrong with throttling back with gear up then?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's just so you don't accidentally throttle back and lose too much speed and end up crashing.
A bit weird, but apart from her speed so far, I quite like how she flies. Very L39-y. I noticed she's got dorsal anti-spin things on the back. I wonder if she's prone to spinning. That'd be interesting to find out at some point.
Again, from what I've seen so far, and also from what the manual mentions, it's pretty hard to actually get her into a flat spin, and even harder to, get her to stay in the flat spin.
Roger. When it comes to approach, are we going to be trimming a lot, presumably?
Well, you don't have to, but it's going to make it a lot more comfortable.
Brake when ready.
Right, braking now. I'm going to use a little bit of air brake because we're still rather fast. It's kind of difficult actually to bleed speed on this aircraft. Rolling out.
Can you just give it a little bit of gas? Just I'm overtaking you. Only just need 2 more knots. 2 knots is all I need. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Alright, so gear out. We're at 200 knots.
Gear out. Do we have any gear warning lights? Yes, we do. I'm good. 1 down, 3 green.
Yeah. Also, your amber warning should now come off.
Roger. I need to retrim a lot now.
I'm going to put in a little bit of power, and I'm going to put down flaps.
Roger.
All the way to landing.
Roger. Flaps. Landing. Power on. Compensate. Trim up to compensate. Check trim. Check flaps. Flaps are good. We're all good, Charlie.
Turning base. Bring back the speed a little bit. And turning into final. Again, bring back the speed a bit. And I'm going to use some air brake now because it's still rather quick.
Yeah, she doesn't slow down very well, does she?
Not at all.
Keep to the left, please, Stahl. I'm on the right.
Sorry, I thought you were left. Alright. Air brake in.
Cap flaring. little bit fast, but I think that's within limits. Cap down.
Hold on.
Nice. Nice formation. Not bad for a first bloody time.
Yeah, slowing her down personally, honestly, is kind of the hardest thing in this aircraft in my opinion, although she's slow by default.
Yeah, roger that. Shitty brakes.
She does not want to give away.
Right, I'm pretty happy with that. Everything went very well. It was very easy to pick up and very easy to operate. Anything you want to add to that before we sign off, Star?
I don't think so, no.
I hope that helps. We'll see you later.